Welcome to Wake Up. Damon Bruce, Larry Kruger. It's great to have you here. We apologize for a slight bit of tardiness and for an odd start time. It's the first week of kindergarten here in the Bruce household, so lots of moving morning parts. We're getting a new routine down, Larry. We're slaves to routine in this house. We got a whole new routine this week.
No days off. No days off. We've got the kindergarten, schmindergarten. We've got the Niners and the Raiders in the final preseason game, and then it's cut down day, and then it's bring on the New York Football Jets. For some national TV action. Sandbox, put it aside.
I apologize for rearing my children in a loving manner, and let's indeed turn our attention to the National Football League, the most important topic in all of our lives, family included. And look, Larry, it's been an uneventful week around the 49ers. The two topics everybody's waiting to come to an end have yet to come to an end. Let's start with another topic that seems to have really reared its head as topic A this week, and that is the immersion of Dominic Puny. This guy is getting broken down by Jeff Schwartz in 10-minute long videos. I've seen a few Brian Baldinger breakdowns, and it really feels like not only all of NFL media, I'm sure the 49ers themselves are very much looking at this young man as their starting right guard right in week one. It looks like it's Puny time.
Puny, get ready for the Puny push or the Puny pirouette. Or, he's the real deal, man. He's the real deal. He's just a fun-loving guy who loves to play. He plays with a joy. He loves the contact. But, the thing about offensive line play, it's so hard to get these guys from college to the pros. Shanahan kind of addressed it the other day when I was asking him about it. And he's like, in college, they just play different schemes, and it takes a long time to transition linemen from the college game to the pro game, and some guys don't transition smoothly. And what this guy did in this game the other day, where he stepped on Colton McKivitt's foot by accident, and then saw that because he had stepped on Colton's foot, Damon, that Colton couldn't kick out and block his guy. And what did Puny do? He just kind of reverse footwork and picked up Colton's guy after he kind of blew by Colton, because Colton's foot was anchored to the ground because it was stepped on by Puny. So Puny, the awareness there for a rookie. We just saw the Niners get overwhelmed on an offensive line situation in the Super Bowl, and it cost them the game. And here it is, this kid's second professional game, and he steps on one of his linemen's toes and has the wherewithal to spin out and try to block McKivitt's guy in as a result. That was so heads up, so heady. He loves to be violent. He loves to dominate. I think this is John Lynch said the key phrase, plug and play. So they're looking at him as a guy that, maybe doesn't get challenged all year. Feliciano's not going to challenge him early. Burford's hurt. Looks like the right guard job's his.
I think so. And I'll tell you, watching that Jeff Schwartz breakdown, really good breakdown, a lot to learn, just offensive line technique, where these guys are, from the ground up offensive line play. There's an awful lot to learn in there. One of the things that Schwartz kept on returning to was the extra work. It's not just Puny looking to block his assignment, but when his assignment's taken care of, he picks up that extra work. He's preventing quarterback hits just by being aware and keeping his head on a swivel. And once his job is done, he's looking for, as Jeff Schwartz said, extra work out there. So if you got a guy who's doing his job and as a rookie is already helping other guys look better at their job, you're not only talking about a guy who looks like he's ready to start against, Quinnen Williams week one of his career on Monday Night Football. You're looking at a guy who seems to be the heir apparent of best offensive lineman this team has the minute Trent Williams decides I'm all done here. Like, that's sort of the trajectory of this kid's starting career. And it's hard to get excited about guards. It's hard to get excited about offensive line, but it's something that 49er fans have been concerned about, rightfully so, for the past couple seasons. This kid looks like the real deal, man. I think he's going to be the answers to an awful lot of the questions that this offensive line has had. So I think watch all of a sudden Colton McKivitz get better playing next to this guy.
It's even, and it really is part of a larger theme, which is that the 49ers this offseason went into the draft, even though they didn't invest in a lot of people wanted them to invest a first-round pick in an offensive lineman, but they didn't. And they didn't invest a second-round pick in an offensive lineman, but they eventually got to it, and they addressed it twice in the draft with Puny in the 3rd round and then Kingston from USC in the 6th round. And then after the draft, they signed Drake Nugent. Well, those 3 guys, Puny has allowed 1 pressure in 44 pass blocking snaps to begin his career in 2 games. And that's after he didn't allow a single sack over his final 2 years at Kansas. Jarrett Kingston has allowed 1 pressure in 2 games thus far, and that's over 61 snaps. So Kingston's been really, really good. And then Drake Nugent, the Stanford by way of Michigan center, allowed 0 pressures on 29 snaps against the Saints. And in 2 preseason games, Nugent has allowed only 1 pressure on 60 pass rushing snaps. So, Nugent is taking on Zakel for that backup spot to Brendel, and who knows how that's going to go. But Nugent's obviously playing well, even though Zakel's in the lead right now, according to the depth chart. Puny looks incredible, and Kingston, has been playing guard and tackle, and there's a lot of people that really like Kingston. So, the Niners may still not have their replacement for Trent Williams, and their O-line still is a work in progress. But as you can see with the secondary, these things don't take, you don't build these positions up in a day or even a single draft or a single year. It takes a couple of years, and they've started, but it looks like they've added 3 pieces, 1 starter and 2 guys off the bench that they can plug in right away. And that's exciting.
It is. So something that everyone said, something everyone said needed to happen is happening here. There's obviously some massive incompletes in this preseason. We'll talk about what, where our eyes will be come Friday, them taking on the Raiders at Allegiant Stadium. Little stock up, stock down this week. I don't think anyone's stock has risen or done better than Dominic Puny's. Jacob Cowing might be the second candidate up there, Larry. I mean, it's, you never get a second chance to make a first impression, and he made a very good first impression on just about everybody. I'm guessing coaching staff included. He took what has been flashing on the practice field into a game against the Saints. I think that that's good news for him. I'm not going to turn around and translate that into bad news for anyone else, Aiyuk, Pearsall, or anything else. I just want to look at this positively. But Jacob Cowing seems to be a rookie that, should the ball come to him during the regular season, he might actually do something with it.
Yeah, I mean, I said it over a month ago that I prefer, if you said to me who's more likely to make an impact on the 49ers, Cowing or Pearsall, I'm going Cowing. And the reason I'm going Cowing is that there's more there. Like, with Cowing, he's got legitimate 4.3 speed and the ability to separate. And then he's played in 2 offenses and was prolific. And he played with some really, really good players at Arizona. The receiver that he played with last year, McMillan, is going to probably wind up being like a top 5 pick in this next draft. So, and yet Cowing was the guy. He was the guy that stood out. In the last couple of games they played, he was the guy against ASU. He was the guy in the bowl game against Oklahoma. To me, Cowing is a route runner. He's dependable. He's got speed. There's just a lot to hang your hat on there. Where with Pearsall, he's got great ball skills, and there's a good catch radius there. But what makes me nervous, and always has, is that there wasn't awesome production at Florida. Now, is that the quarterback's fault? Possibly. Is the offensive coordinator, head coach? I mean, there's other people you can blame. But when you're a future NFL receiver of note, you probably should dominate in college. And he looks good, but he didn't dominate. So to me, that's reason to kind of pause. So we'll see what Pearsall is, and I think Pearsall is going to be effective. But I like Cowing better because I think Cowing is more dynamic, and he gives the 49ers. I mean, Pearsall, when's Pearsall going to be on the field?
Right. I mean, well, here's the thing.
JJ's not.
I don't want to hold against a guy what we don't know about a guy because we haven't even seen him yet. I mean, and you've been at practice almost every day, Larry. You haven't seen much of Ricky Pearsall in terms of live drills with contact. He's been, on the side for the most part, or just running in shorts and T-shirts. So we don't know.
They've been protecting him all summer. They've protected him all summer. He hasn't been in the one-on-one drills, so he isn't going up against this bevy of good corners the Niners have for the most part. He's been in the blue non-contact jersey, so he hasn't taken these hits that I'm not sure if he can take. So I like Pearsall, and I think there's reason to think that he can be an effective NFL player, but like Cowing did it at UTEP, and then he went to Arizona in a different offense and did it again, and then went to the combine and ran 4.3 and, has that ability to separate vertically. To me, he's a little bit more of, you can see his skill set on paper and why he's effective. We'll see about Pearsall. We'll see. Hey, and it doesn't sound like we're going to see in week 1.
A little bit more stock up, stock down after what we've seen through 2 preseason games and what Larry's seeing in practice this week and any sort of ramifications from that preseason game rearing its head on the practice field. But I agree with Carry On right here. Hit that like button. Thank you very much. Like and subscribe both of these channels. This is a show that is simulcast on both the channels. If you could sprinkle a little love on both channels, we would certainly appreciate that. I would certainly appreciate that. Larry's got such a larger audience because he's just been cranking out some incredible content, doing a hell of a job. We never want to leave anybody feeling like they weren't recognized. Travis Stewart says, y'all never read my super chat Monday when Damon was talking about his son off to school. Well, Travis, we certainly didn't mean to miss anything. Sorry if we did. Thank you so much for the super chat. We appreciate the support and all that stuff. And Jack appreciates the love. So thanks very much. We never want to miss anyone. If your people are nice enough to be here, drop some sprinkles on us. There we go. Pat Riley, do you think LeBron is monogamous with Savannah? It's very much off topic. But let's just say I hope so. I hope all marriages are happy and committed. And it's got a big probably not on it, but we'll hope for the best.
That's I'd put this Pat Riley question right there with a Ralph Barbieri. Hey Brian, what about shout to Lamachia? And then all of a sudden Brian just was like baffled by the question and just went, Ralph, why? And that's what I would say to Pat Riley. Pat. Why are we asking that question? Why do we care about LeBron's monogamy? I don't know if LeBron will be monogamous or not.
I don't know. What's the famous line? Men are as mostly as
men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Is that the line?
Like that, but men are as faithful as their options. I'm guessing LeBron has awful. Options. It is awful, but
that's awful.
So well, I mean, I hope so. I hope the Jameses are a very happy, stable family. I wish that for everyone. Happiness in your marriage, happiness
Bob,
in your
family. Are you a fan of 30 Rock, which was a great show? Who remember that show with Jason Bateman? Arrested Development. Were you a friend of Arrested Development?
I've never watched a single episode of it.
Oh, damn. Because our next texter is from Bob Loblaw. There was a character that they kept referring to in that Arrested Development, and his name was Bob Loblaw. And when they would say it fast, of course, it sounds like blah, 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 right? Bob Loblaw. Anyway, it was an inside thing from Arrested Development. But Bob Loblaw says, Damon, the sportscaster the Bay needs. Krug? Nah. Krug's a legend, too. Thanks.
There you go. Congratulations.
Thanks Bob Loblaw.
Yes. Oh, look at here, by the way.
Moon Man with the super sticker, which I've never quite... I haven't, I can't really define the super sticker.
What's the super sticker do?
Well, it adds 99 pennies to our account.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
So there you go. Super sticker from Moon Man. I like that. I like the super sticker.
Stock
Jacob
up, stock
says,
down.
funny show. I've only seen the first 2 seasons. Yeah, if you can, I bought the box set for my wife a few years ago, and she binge watched 30 Arrested Development. Very, very funny.
By the way, with all the streaming that we now have, what a mistake that was to invest in an actual physical box set. Like my wife has every season of Sex in the City in some fancy pink binder over here. I'm like, you'll never touch those. Can we just throw those out? You're gonna stream it on HBO if you ever actually watch it again, which you probably won't. Anyway,
if you've seen it once, you don't need to see it again anyway.
Right. Little stock up, stock down continuing. Again, there's no doubt that Cowing and Puny had a good week. I think that Josh Dobbs had a good week in the eyes of the team, in the eyes of the coaching staff. And let me ask you, since you've been at practice, obviously Purdy runs with the ones. Has Dobbs been getting the lion's share of the work with the twos, Larry? Has he been getting more work than Brandon Allen? And is that an indicator as to a decision this team is making at QB2?
No, I mean, in short, no, he hasn't been taking all the 2 reps. They've been splitting them up most of camp. I would say that Allen is probably slightly ahead of Dobbs based on what I've seen in practice. Now, a lot of people really liked what Dobbs did in this last game. And to me, Dobbs really has had a nice preseason. I mean, the first game, he does the helicopter dive and kind of shows that he's all in. And that's something that did not go unnoticed by his teammates. That was really cool. And then this last game, he moved outside the pocket. He showed that mobility. He made some plays. He threw the ball better in these 2 preseason games than he's thrown it on the practice field all summer. Allen has thrown the deep ball much better than Dobbs in this camp. But I think Dobbs has outplayed. I thought Allen outplayed Dobbs in the first game. Dobbs probably outplayed Allen a little bit in the second game. I think I would still give Allen a slight nod going into this third game, but it's close, man. It is really close. And then the question becomes, whoever the loser of this competition is, do they automatically make the team as number 3? Or do they then get put through waivers and only make the team as a practice squad quarterback? I'm not even sure if there is a competition between 2 and 3. I know there's a competition there's no competition for the number 1 job, Brock Purdy's. There's no competition. I think there is a competition for, the number 2 job between Dobbs and Allen. I don't know that there's a competition for that number 3 job, because I get the feeling that the Niners may go with, let's just say Allen and Purdy, put Dobbs and Mordecai both through waivers to try to see who slides through to the practice squad. And whoever goes unclaimed will be on the practice squad. And whoever, if they both go unclaimed, then they'll pick between the 2 of them. That's my guess on how things are going to go. But I have a hard time seeing with the 49ers needing that. 49ers have like 7 or 8 really good corners, and they cut their corner depth last year in Deshaun Jameson. Within 3 weeks, they were looking for more corners, and they needed corners all the way going into the playoffs. So
let me ask you this.
I wonder if they will cut their corner depth, or if they'll retain their corner depth, and that's going to mean, really going lean and mean at all these other spots, and the quarterback could be one of them. They might go with 2 and the third guy in the practice squad.
I really don't believe that anything that we see Friday night on the field at Allegiant Stadium is going to go a long way into getting a guy on the team or off the team. I think that the decisions have pretty much been made across the board. Do you think there is a QB2 battle that could play out on the field? I mean, do you think it's been made up in Shanahan's mind? Or do you think something could happen in Allegiant Stadium that puts Dobbs in the QB2 role, or Allen over Dobbs in the QB2 role, if that's where he's been to begin? I think that
I think it's still open. I think it's still open. And I do. And I think that that there's a financial component here, and then there's a roster component here. And a lot of times it's not about who are the best 53. it's a lot of times are who are the 53 guys you want to go with, because the 4 guys that you chose to cut are all going to go unclaimed, and you're going to be able to have those guys too. You know what I mean? So it's like a lot of times when it comes right down to, roster spot 51, 52, 53, it's like, okay, well, player X or player Y? Well, player X is more likely to get picked up off waivers. Oh, really? Okay, let's go with player X then. Let's keep him off waivers. So that could be it. And like in this situation, if you really want to make sure that you have Dobbs and Allen does beat him out, do you put him through waivers and try to get him to the practice squad? Or do you just say, you know what, if I put him through waivers, Minnesota, who lost McCarthy for the year, might grab him? And who's more likely to slip through waivers at this juncture, Dobbs or Mordecai? And I would say it's probably Mordecai, unless Mordecai goes off in this third game.
It's really not the game you want to be playing. Like, if there's a player that you want, that you think is going to be an important part of your year, you don't want to be playing that. Hopefully we can slide him in the side door without anybody noticing. Like, that's this is the game that these teams all play, though. You're right. I mean, like last year, Deshaun Jameson had a really good camp, and he was a really good, solid corner option for them. They cut him to go with an extra offensive lineman that they never, ever would have played, Matt Pryor. They added Matt Pryor, who couldn't play dead, to the roster. They went with Matt Pryor over Deshaun Jameson, and then literally they were picking up Logan Ryan types all year, looking for one more corner. Right. Because when you run out of corners, you run out of corners. Yeah. Logan Ryan got picked on in the middle of the field in the Super Bowl, and that's what Diamador Lenore was saying. Maybe I should have been playing slot in that conversation that he had with Richard Sherman just about a week ago. Stock down this week. Is there anyone noticeably being left out of practice reps because you can feel their careers in real time slipping off the back end of this roster, Larry? What's it like been this week for Ronnie Bell, Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles, Cody Schrader, a couple of guys who didn't have great games pregame season 2 or preseason game 2?
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any sources. I'm just giving you my impressions, right? Because like nobody's told me these guys are in trouble or anything. But I think Cody Schrader went from the beginning of camp like, man, I'd be afraid to squeeze him through waivers, to I think he gets through waivers. He's just not quite NFL at this juncture. He went for 2.1 a carry, not behind a great line. And a lot of it was the line's issues, not him. But there's too many guys here. I mean, you got CMC, you got Mitchell, you got Mason, you got Juszczyk. Those 4 are going to make it. And you probably got one spot for either Breida, Schrader, Guerendo, Patrick Taylor, or Keyshawn Vaughn. And it's pretty clear the way, Guerendo was getting coached up on the sideline yesterday by Bobby T, that it's Isaac Guerendo week, right? They need him to fire, play well, and show up big in that game against the Raiders. If he does, I think Guerendo gets the 5th and final running back spot, and Schrader goes through waivers. So I would say Cody Schrader on the offensive side is the guy who, I don't want to say the bloom's off the rose, but it just, he's a nice player, but I think he'll squeeze through waivers. Okay. So that's the first one. On the other side of the ball, it's a little bit more difficult to say somebody is sliding or struggling in any way. I just think that the roster certainty of Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles, who's a solid player across the board, solid backup, solid special teamer, but I think his job is under fire here. Why? Because you got Fred, he's not going anywhere. You got Devondre Campbell you brought in, he's obviously going to make the team. So you got those 2 guys for sure. Curtis Robinson is easily won the most improved player in this camp. I mean, he looks a lot like Fred Warner out there, so he's making it. And then Jalen Graham has been just an absolute phenomenal player all summer. He's making it. D. Winters is making it because Winters according to Fred, had the best offseason of anybody. And then Tatum Bethune has got 18 tackles in 2 games, and he keeps showing up at the football in camp, and he just does nothing but make tackle after tackle after tackle. So I just think it's going to come down to, I think they're going to keep 6. Fred, Devondre, Curtis Robinson, Jalen Graham, D. Winters are your 5. And then I just think it's going to come down to Tatum Bethune or Flanagan Fowles, and I'd rather go with Tatum Bethune. I know Flanagan Fowles a little bit better in coverage, but Tatum Bethune, to have 18 tackles in 2 games when he barely knew the defense. I mean, Curtis Robinson said it yesterday at the podium when I asked him about Bethune. He's like, the fact that this kid has been able to learn this defense this fast and adapt to it and lead us in tackles the last 2 games and just be all around the football all summer just shows what kind of a smart, instinctive player he is. So Bethune does not run well. But you know what? You wouldn't know that watching the film because he's just always where he needs to be. So I think Flanagan Fowles' roster spot very, very precarious at this point.
Look, I mean, hey, there's a difference. There is a serious difference between speed and football speed. And we see it all the time. Guy has a lousy 40 time. Well, then you put him on a football field and pads around everyone, and dude, he's cooking. You just it.
Talanoa Hufanga's an all-pro. He
Right.
ran 4.67. JJ Juwan Jennings might have been the MVP of the Super Bowl. He's on a team that has Aiyuk and Debo and CMC, and yet JJ, who ran 4.76 for the stopwatch.
Right. That's like a parked car as a wide receiver, by the way. That's not a good number.
It's like an offensive tackle.
Right.
He's like getting blown by a alt from the Chargers. Yeah. So, I mean, it's an amazing thing. Sometimes your numbers, Jerry Rice.
By the way, Mayonnaise got it right here.
Jerry Rice.
Check it out. Mayonnaise right here. Jerry Rice ran a 4.71.
Yeah.
What that
I don't
guy
need,
go on to do?
I don't know. I'm not sure if that was quite that slow, but still, nobody ever caught Jerry from behind, and he didn't have anything close to a sub 4.5 40. So 40 time is overrated. Very overrated. Brock Purdy has a very marginal 40 time, but he's got a 1.54 10-yard split, which is just a fraction slower than Tyreek Hill. Well, guess what? Brock Purdy's hard to sack because he can get away. So, that quickness really does matter. I mean, the 40 time doesn't matter for every position. It matters for the positions like, running back, wide receiver, corner, where you're maybe going to need long speed a couple times a game. I'm
surprised isn't
you don't need
part
long
of the-
speed as a guard.
The combine. I'm surprised that they don't make corners run a
Backwards?
backyard 15-yard split, because you're not running backwards the entire time, but the back pedal is so important. I'm surprised that they don't have like a 40-yard backwards running combine attached for guys who play corner and safety in the league.
Well, they do. It's called the 3-cone.
The 3-cone and the
three-cone,
shuttle
yeah.
drill is how they measure those things. But I
3-cone is your agility tester where Tom Brady beat DK Metcalf.
I need a
because
single
DK
lane.
couldn't
Larry.
corner.
I need a single lane with a guy running backwards for 40 yards, measuring 40 times.
The back pedal Olympics.
The back pedal Olympics. It would be great. It really would. Look, like and subscribe. And I see a few of you have noticed we have Sam's Chowder House in between our names. And that's because Sam's Chowder House is going to be sponsoring Wake Up all season long, an incredible restaurant down in Half Moon Bay. They got a lot of history with the 49ers. They got a lot of history with me and Larry. And we are putting the band back together. They're going to be sponsoring Wake Up all year long. We're so happy to have Paul and Julie Schenkman supporting us. They understand which way the future is heading, and they know that we are sort of right out in front of it. So they really want to be a part of this. We wanted them to be a part of this, and this is, as California dining experience as you can have. Sam's Chowder House in Half Moon Bay is a special place. We'll be telling you about it all season long, and hopefully it's a special season for the 49ers, and we'll all be, throwing clams on the half shell all around all season long.
Robbing the Bay says, I'm not just robbing the Bay, I'm robbing Half Moon Bay.
Well, then Rob knows.
Then Rob knows.
Rob
Here we
knows.
go. Steve Baloney.
He knows.
Is it Bologna or Bologna?
Bologna. It's a classier Bologna, Larry.
I mean, if it's spelled like Bologna, do you go with Bologna? Because Bologna does sound so much classier. We welcome our author to the show today, Steve Bologna, who's written 17 novels. Or if I say, hey, my buddy Stephen Bologna is coming with us to the game, Damon. You say, oh, man, you're bringing Bologna?
You know what, though? I'd be like, Bologna, I love that guy. Bologna's my
everybody loves Bologna. Last time he got drunk and we took a highlighter and we highlighted his face. It was awesome.
It's a Bologna where you can't draw the pencil thin mustache on him where he passes out without him getting all upset about it. It's a Bologna trait.
First of all, it's not Stephen Bologna. It's Dr. Bologna.
It's Dr. Bologna.
He's a Dr. Bologna, Dr. Bologna.
Paging Dr. Bologna.
Paging Dr. Bologna. Mr. Bologna, we've got an emergency. White courtesy telephone.
All right. Speaking of bologna, are you ready?
Yes.
That's about as smooth a transition as I can give you.
Wait a second. Lobster roll. There we go.
Lobster.
Stephen Bologna says lobster roll. Lobster roll. Yes.
Why hasn't Brandon Aiyuk accepted the 49ers offer?
Uh-oh. Is this true?
What? Oh, did Al Attles pass away?
Mark Graves says R.I.P. Al Attles. Al Attles' son, Alvin Attles Jr., is a buddy of mine. He's a friend of mine. And his dad was as classy a man as I've ever met. The Destroyer. And what a gentleman. And what a giant in NBA history. What a giant in Golden State Warrior history. What a giant in Bay Area sports history. Won the 75 title with the Warriors. Just a great guy. The best pipes you're ever going to hear was Al Attles. He just had the deepest baritone and just the kindest man.
He's the longest tenured employee for the team, for a team in league history. He contributed to the Warriors organization as a player, coach, general manager, vice president, and consultant for over 6 decades. And yes,
all class.
It looks like it looks like there's some memories coming out here, Larry. This might have he might have passed away here.
Yeah, very sad. Very sad.
Passes
life
away
well
at the age
lived.
of 87. The age of 87.
Great coach. Great ambassador for Warrior basketball. Always just a personification of class and dignity.
Rest in peace to Al Attles.
Rest in peace, Al Attles. What a great man. What a great Bay Area legend he was. And what to me, if I could say one word, sometimes when you think of people passing, you always think, what's the word that describes their time here on the planet? And all I would say is class. I mean, just class. Al Attles was a classy guy. He always, he stayed above the fray, but he was very much, a guy who had seen a lot in his life and had a lot to be grateful for. And he just had a very smart man who had a tremendous perspective. Always loved my exchanges with him. And we'll miss him. Here's
what he gets.
Here's a great warrior.
Here's what he gets. Here's what he gets. He gets a jersey patch. There will be an Al Attles jersey patch, I'm guessing, on the Warriors jersey this upcoming season. That's what he meant to the organization. So, rest in peace to Al Attles. Very sad. Very sad.
Very sad.
Back to the show at hand, and I just asked the question when we got the breaking news. Larry, why hasn't Brandon Aiyuk accepted the 49ers offer? What is holding this up now? I read a story today that there have been some, talks about minor details. How have all minor details not been finished? Like, we should be at the signature only portion of the negotiation. What else could they still be negotiating at this hour, this deep into a 5-month negotiation now?
I know it is at this point almost a legendary negotiation. Brandon Aiyuk's long-term contract talks, according to the reports I'm reading from Adam Schefter, are near conclusion. So Schefter is reporting that Aiyuk to the Niners is the likely conclusion. Jordan Schultz reported that the Niners and Aiyuk met yesterday. That would be 2 days ago, and continue to make progress on a long-term deal. There are some minor details that need the 49ers ownership to sign off on for final approval.
What is the minor detail? What is it?
I don't know.
What could that possibly fucking be? Does he get a jacuzzi? Does he get a party at Chuck E. Cheese too? Like what?
I don't know. What could it be? It could be a suite on the road, I guess. It could be some kind of accommodations for his family. It could be some
get a suite on the road. You're not Peyton Manning. Get the fuck out of here. What do you mean?
Well, maybe he does. Maybe he wants a suite on the road. Who knows? Maybe he wants his own hotel. Maybe he wants Maybe he doesn't want Uber. Maybe he wants Lyft. Who knows? I don't know.
It feels like that minor detail should have been worked out by now. I mean, seriously,
yes,
it's ridiculous.
All of this is way, 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 way too much.
And what
this is going on for way, way, way too long, which makes me think at least, that there might be some element of this that it really goes beyond Niners or the agent or Brandon, that maybe there's some bad vibes here. Maybe there's some bad blood here. Maybe there's some destruction that has happened to the relationship. Now, Lynch, when those things were broached on KMBR, said, no. We love Brandon. He loves us. This is just the nature of a tough negotiation.
All right. Well, that's the thing.
That could be it. That could be it.
But that's also a 1,000,000,000% lie that you tell 100% of the time. Do you really think that he'd been like, "Oh, great question, Tom. Yeah, we can't stand this asshole now"? I mean,
well, no, but I mean, but let's take what he said at face value and think and work back from there. It makes sense. They have a quarterback that makes $900,000 that they're probably going to pay $60 million to next year. There is no team in football that has any other player that fits that description. And the 49ers have almost a quarter of the league's top 30 players on their roster. There are 32 teams in this league. So it does make sense that they should, let's just say that, they should be hugged up against the cap. If the 49ers have tons, and I mean, the 49ers do, for clerical purposes, do have the most cap room in football. But as we all know, that's all just about moving numbers around. And, they have a ton of talent on their roster. They're one of the deeper teams in pro football. And they also are a star-studded team, probably the most star-studded team in pro football. If the 49ers had endless cap room, something would be wrong with the system, right? Because they're too deep and there's too many good players. So it makes sense that the 49ers would have cap problems that are severe. And especially at this juncture, it's year 7 of this regime, and they've got all these good players, and they've been to a couple Super Bowls and a bunch of NFC title games. It makes sense that they have all these players, and it's going to be really, really tough to pay Brock Purdy. And so to me, the fact that they're playing super hardball with their receivers over contracts, to me, I think also makes sense. But it's a painful process, and I really believe that there's some distrust going on here. Why? Because I think it's pretty obvious what's going on. The Niners tried to replace BA in the draft, and they failed. They tried to invest the number 1 pick and the number 4th round pick in receivers that they thought could replace him. If those guys right now were Moss and Owens, they'd be kissing off on Aiyuk, and they would have already traded him. But instead, Pearsall might be glass, Cowing small. Neither have made the impact this summer that they wanted them to. And so now they are like, hey, we got to have this guy back. We can't trade this guy. And then the reports coming out of Pittsburgh, Damon, are that the Steelers also, that is a non-starter, and we've been talking about that for weeks. So,
but you hear then the Steelers offer is 27-ish million, and the 49ers offer is 27-ish million. So it's the same number.
We think.
We think exactly. No, it can't confirm it, but we think it's the same number. And so what is this? You'd rather go play for Mike Tomlin and good luck with that quarterback than Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy, who was just in an MVP conversation? Like, yeah, maybe there is something here. Maybe he doesn't like Kyle Shanahan, in which case the 49ers should have fucking acknowledged that 3 months ago and said goodbye. I mean, like, it's insane.
No, you wouldn't acknowledge it, because if you acknowledge it, then you kill his value. And you acknowledge that if you acknowledge that him and Shanahan don't get along and it's like a real problem, you're almost announcing two things. He can't stay here, and his value isn't great going out.
I don't mean acknowledge it by going public with it, but acknowledge it by doing something about it, realizing that there is a non-starter in a negotiation. That means you don't even bother starting the negotiation because you got a non-starter in there. You know, like, I mean,
maybe it's you know, have you ever had a relationship with somebody where you think you get along good, but they hate you? You know what I mean? It could be one of those relationships where Shanahan might be like, hey, you know what? I like Brandon, pretty good guy. And Aiyuk could be like, I hate Shanahan. He thinks he knows everything. He thinks he was Jerry Rice and Terrell Owens and Randy Moss rolled into one. You know, he couldn't play. And now he's telling me and he's questioning me and this and that. You know, so, it doesn't, there could be two sides to this relationship. Shanahan could be like, I kind of like the guy. And he could be like, I hate this guy. And I'm tired of, I don't like what he thinks he said to me. And I want out. You know, I don't know, but it does make you think when the number that the Niners are offering is in the exact same ballpark as the number that the Steelers are offering. And the Niners play in San Francisco, California, on a beautiful grass field in wonderful weather with great weapons, with an incredible play caller, with an offense that scores 30 a game, with one of the best young quarterbacks, and your receiver would rather play on a team that plays in Pennsylvania with lousy quarterbacks on a team that hasn't won a playoff game since 2016, for a head coach who might be one of the most overrated in football because he hasn't won a playoff game in 5 years. I don't know. So we'll that does make you think. It might be personal, Damon. It might, and we might not ever get the answer on this. I get the feeling that the Niners are trying to appease everybody. They want to appease their fans. They want to appease their players. They want to have the best chance to win the Super Bowl this year. They want to have enough money to pay for Purdy next year. I think the master plan, when they're like hatching it out on a whiteboard in somebody's office, probably included kissing off the receivers. And now that we're actually at the moment where it's time to put up or shut up, you can't do it, right? You can't kiss off Aiyuk. Why? Because Ricky Pearsall can't even get on the field, and I don't think you're nearly as good a team without Aiyuk.
But just independent of Ricky Pearsall, what about all this Brandon Aiyuk, his relationship with Brock Purdy, and these two guys are just connected, and it's his favorite target, and they got, a kismet that you can't really draw up in a coach's room. It either has to happen on a field between two guys or it doesn't. And all of this stuff was either real.
I think it's real
because I saw it with my own two eyes, or they're paying lip service to a whole bunch of fuzzy flowers that you put in a basket and hand to somebody because it's all bullshit.
I think it's real, Damon, but I also think their cap problems are real, and their solutions. Like, okay, if we just went through all the high-priced guys on the team and we said, do you want to get rid of this guy? You want to get rid of that guy? And we don't have to do the exercise, but you know what I'm saying? If we did this, we probably would be getting rid of the receivers. Like, you know what I mean? Like, hey, they got cap problems, and here are their most expensive guys. You want to get rid of Trent? No. You want to get rid of Bosa? No. You want to get rid of Fred? No. And then eventually it's going to be like, okay, well, a couple guys have got to go. Who's it going to be? The receivers. There's always more receivers. And, the college game produces so many receivers. I don't know. I don't know. I think that was their plan. But then they see Pearsall and Cowing, struggling to stay healthy and stay on the field. And they know they cannot trade. It's like if you made one mistake. You probably didn't pay Aiyuk. You weren't aggressive enough early enough in this negotiation to nip it in the bud early. So then Aiyuk started taking control of it. And when we got to the Super Bowl and he was unsigned, and we got to the offseason, Damon, and he was unsigned, and then we got to the combine, and he basically said through Ian Rappaport, I ain't signing till all the other receivers sign. You then lost control. You lost control in the negotiation. You had control if you had been proactive. You weren't. You lost control of the negotiation. He took control of it.
And we said this. If the Niners really were going to play this like, let's tell you how it goes, there should have never been a negotiation to begin with. You know,
right?
They should have said,
fifth-year option, baby.
Negotiate. You are on a fifth-year option. We'll talk to you after that. And if Team
That's what the Bengals are doing to Chase, right?
Right. Now, here's the deal. So all this mystery remains about Brandon Aiyuk, relationships within the building, so on and so forth. And Brandon Aiyuk's mystery is also in how he is interpreted value to the league, hierarchy among wide receivers. You can make an argument he's a top 5 guy. You can make an argument he's a top 10 guy. You can make an argument he's a top 15 guy. If you want to pull him into the top 20, well, you're probably starting to underestimate him a little, and he's better than that. He's somewhere in that top 15 wide receiver range for sure.
And if you lined him up, the receivers by salary, he's right there in that Jalen Waddle, Devontae from the Eagles. He's right in that range, that 28, 27, 29, in that range right there. And if he got paid a little bit more, a little bit less, nobody would bat an eye. So that's his neighborhood.
It's not the top shelf liquor. Right. It's the second shelf. It's the one right under. And
but it's not the bottom.
You're not in the well. You're not Ron Rico rum getting poured into rum and cokes when no one's looking. No.
It's not Popov.
You are a quality liquor on the shelf behind the bartender.
You're Tito's. You're Tito's.
Yeah. Where's Guy Haberman when you need him?
Yeah.
But look, there's mystery. There is interpretation when it comes to Brandon Aiyuk. Trent Williams comes without mystery or interpretation. He does not get along with anybody. He seems to be loving the 49ers since he's joined this organization, leaving the tomfoolery of the Washington Commanders in his rearview mirror and what a headache all that was. And there is no debating where he sits among the hierarchy of left tackles. He is on the top shelf. He might not be the 1A, but he is 1B at worst, and no worse than that. So he is the best version of his position in the league right now. So while there is murkiness and muddled conversation to be had around Brandon Aiyuk, where's Trent Williams then? Because that guy there's nothing to really talk about. He's sort of the best in the league. So just give him the guaranteed money that he's looking for to get him in, because I've seen your offensive line without him, and it's a piece of shit on the right side, on the left side without him. So get that guy in. Like, why would you even dick around going to Las Vegas without this guy on the roster? I don't get it. What are you doing with Trent Williams? The Brandon Aiyuk thing got complicated. No complication at all for Trent Williams. None. There's no complication. Sign that fucking guy for whatever dollar amount he says I want. That's how you handle that one. I don't get this. What the fuck are they doing? The season starts in 5 days, Larry. Maybe not 5 days.
I think this is an interesting thing, because Trent is irreplaceable. He's holding out. And yet, even though he's holding out and there's been zero updates on his situation, it seems like it's far less dire, because the 49ers keep saying, yeah, we've had good dialogue with Trent.
Because we're not talking about it?
No, it's because the 49ers say we've got good dialogue going with his agent. We've got great conversations, and everybody who's referencing this seems to like he's holding out, but he still loves them. He's holding out, but they still love him. He's holding out, and he's incurring fines, and he is going to have to pay those fines. I almost get the feeling like he might have told the 49ers in February, hey, by the way, I ain't showing up, and I'm going to want enough money to cover my fines plus about $1 million, because they do seem really, really comfortable with his situation. Now, here's the latest.
If there's a handshake agreement that the Silverback Gorilla doesn't need the preseason, so we're good with that, then fine. Okay.
Here's the latest. This is we're going to share the screen here. This is from FS1, and Deshaun Jackson, who's his buddy, went on there yesterday. Here's the latest on Trent from Deshaun Jackson, who on this podium is on the far right. Here we go.
I don't think we need to panic so quietly. I just was on a phone call with my boy Trent. We call him the big boy, man. You know, he's the gorilla, man. He's working out. When I say he working out, he in that gym, man. So, and you know what, a little insight, you know, I don't want to talk too much, but I'm going to give y'all a little something, man. They working on something, man. I think they're going to make it right for my boy to come in there, man. He might be showing up a little late. You know, he got some fines and some fees he might have to take care, but he going to be there, man. So, you know, for the Niners fans, it's going to be all right. So y'all take it easy. But honestly, man, he'll be there shortly.
He will be there shortly, according to his former teammate, Deshaun Jackson. So
Okay.
D-Jack says Silverback will be a Niner, and he will be a Niner shortly.
I guess my point would be we're officially at the shortly part of the preseason. Like anything that's about to happen needs to happen shortly because
he doesn't want to play. He doesn't want to play preseason ball. I mean, it's kind of like
because guess who got hurt a little bit last year? Guess who is more brittle now than he's ever been before? Guess whose body isn't ready to just just stretch coming out of bed and I'm going to go play a football game. I wouldn't trust that at all. I would want that guy out there for
There's only so many. There's only so many games in a body, right? In an NFL body. And if Trent Williams said, "Hey man, I don't play exhibition games anymore. This body is too old for exhibition games."
Cool. That's cool.
Hey Kyle, I'll show up around Labor Day. How about that? And Kyle probably said, "Cool, fine." That's the only thing the only thing I can say about this. Why? Because the Niners, this is their most important player outside of the quarterback, and they don't seem at all concerned. They don't seem at all bothered by his holdout. They don't seem at all worried that it's going to, go into the season. To me, it seems like the Niners and Trent are on the same page. Now, the Niners and Aiyuk, I don't know that they're on the same page, but it does seem like the Niners and Trent are on the same page. Why do I think that? Because the Niners keep maintaining that. And now you got somebody on Trent's side in Deshaun Jackson. Deshaun basically saying, "Hey, you know what? He'll be there." So he'll be there.
I guess, Larry, I ain't here for same page reports. The only page I care about is the page that he signs his signature on. He should be in.
Yeah, but he's old. He's old, and
sure.
There's here's the bottom line on it. Some guys can't be there. It's kind of like Shaq for a while later in his career. So, you look at the marathon. All these schedules get to be a marathon at some point. And maybe you run a marathon and you're like, wow, I did it, 26 miles. And then you're like, well, would you do it again? Well, I don't know if I could do the final 6, but I'd do it again if it was like 20. I think that's kind of where these guys are at. It's like, you know what? I want to play another year. He came back. He was adamant he wanted to play another year, but he probably said to himself, look, man, we're playing 20-game seasons every year here in San Francisco. I'm playing 17 regular season games. I'm playing 3 playoff games every year. I'm playing 20 games, and that's if I don't play at all in the preseason. So how about this? No more preseason games for Big Trent. I bet you I will go as far as this. I bet you Trent Williams will never play another preseason game in his life. I bet you he never shows up for preseason.
I want him out there on the practice field. I want him doing something to get his body ready to go because, like you have said, like I've agreed with you, nothing gets you in football shape except for football games.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I asked Forster this question 3 weeks ago. Trent's out. He's holding out. You guys don't seem worried. You don't seem concerned. What does he need? What is the minimum? What does he have to have, Chris? Does he have to have one practice? Does he have to have one half of one game? Does he need a game and a half? What does he need? Or are you guys willing to just, put him out there protecting your quarterback when he's less than 100% in September and just roll the dice? What does he need? And he just, he gave me that politician word salad, endless answer that said nothing. And I'll basically, I would say he needs a 10 days. I think he needs 10 days.
I know the answer. He needs to be out there week 1 against the New York Jets. That's the need. It can't be one of those, oh, Trent got signed, but he's not ready to go against the Jets. You can't be throwing away regular season games on backup left tackles.
But the question is this: what does he need as far as practice between now and week 1 to get ready for week 1? That's the question.
Well,
everybody, I agree. What does he have to? He sure as hell better be there at Levi's in week 1 against the Jets. But the question is, what does he need to play well that night? And I would say he needs at least 4 or 5 days of practice.
It's 19 days until September 9th, kickoff Monday Night Football. So that means to get, about 10 days of practice, this thing has to be done before September 1st rolls around. And again,
I would say right now is when I'd like to see it done, to be completely honest.
I guess that's what I'm saying here too, Larry. And there's no reason why this shouldn't get done today. If you know it's going to get done, then get it done today. Just because it got done today doesn't mean Trent needs to be in Santa Clara doing jumping jacks and push-ups right now. But we need that to happen quickly for this season to start well. I mean, we talked about, Brandon Aiyuk, the holdout. It could be a soft tissue injury. You know who's less likely to have a soft tissue injury? The 27-year-old guy as opposed to the dude in his 30s. So I think that any fear of Brandon Aiyuk needs this tune-up. It goes double for a guy the age of Trent Williams.
And don't tell me about his workout habits. And people always say, you Bosa. I'm not worried at all about Bosa because I don't care what these guys are doing in some gym in Arizona. It's not the same as football practice. It's just not. So I would say Trent may need 4 or 5 days of practice and some live reps. I don't know if you want to get him in a game, if you want to get him in a practice. Either way is fine with me. But live reps, you need some live reps.
Half an hour of one-on-ones with Nick Bosa should get him ready to go, right? It's about tough a one-on-one matchup as you can find in a practice field.
And more than anything, you just don't want that soft tissue injury that's going to then kick him out of action for a month. So when you do get him in there, you want to be. Everybody else has kind of been revved up slowly but surely since minicamp. Well, you're asking him to rev it up like immediately. And have you ever gotten in a car that's like an older car and you try to start it and drive it immediately? You want to let that thing warm up just a little bit. And the same thing with Big Trent. You want to let him warm up just a little bit, because if you don't, you're looking at a torn quad, a calf tear, some soft tissue injury that derails him for lots of time. And you want to keep the 49ers out of the Super Bowl, out of the playoff picture. Start by losing Trent for 10 games, and you'll see how quickly this thing comes crashing back to earth. They need him. They got to have him.
They do. Let's see. A couple of other things that are going on in football, just in the headlines this week. Larry, did you see the conversation that Tua had with Dan Le Batard on the Dan Le Batard show, where he basically said the difference between playing for Mike McDaniel and Brian Flores is the difference between being yelled at by a guy who clearly doesn't like you or want you, or being embraced by a guy who is trying to extract the very best from you. Have you seen any of this?
I mean, I didn't see the actual video, but I've read a lot of the comments.
Brian Flores was in front of the media. He's now with the Vikings as their defensive coordinator. And he was almost like in tears, fighting back tears that he had this reputation as far as Tua really not liking him, or just think that he was, so hard. He was coached not hard, but coached mean, I guess. And Mike McDaniel is the total opposite of that.
Well, I mean, this just in, there's a lot of gruff football coaches who don't really care that much about their communication with the players.
Indeed.
And they're harsh. And that's kind of like the old school coach. Mike McDaniel is almost, he's like unlike any coach that I've ever been around. I mean, he's incredibly cerebral. He would never, even raise his voice. I couldn't even picture him yelling.
Right.
Like
What
an
does
old school
what does
football
angry
coach.
Mike McDaniel look like? I don't know.
But I mean, it's I don't know. I personally am not a Tua fan. I think Tua can't read coverage. I think Tua, they paid him too much too early, and I think he's gonna regress in his career the way that Garoppolo regressed, because I don't think he can really read the field. And I think he's succeeded a lot because McDaniel's an outstanding play caller, and he's got an incredible collection of speed weapons.
Right. I see a lot
and
of,
he doesn't have to go through progressions a lot.
In the comments, I see a lot of soft. He's a pussy. Look, dude, he had Nick Saban yelling at him. So I don't know how soft or pussy-ish his reputation really is. You want to talk about reading coverage? That's another thing completely. But
yeah, it has nothing to do with any of that.
Yeah.
But I'm watching Tua, and I don't see a guy who, he's not Brock Purdy, where he looks to his left. He looks to the middle, looks to the next window. And then that's not there. He looks to the third window. He just doesn't. I don't see him going through progressions like that. I see him with a ton of speed, going to his first read a lot. And if you take away his first read, he's a circus. I think Tua is going to be found out. I think within 3 years, Miami will be looking for another franchise quarterback. That'll be my prediction there.
You might be right. I'd also say he's in a good situation with a pretty talented team, a forward-thinking coach that might fit him. And, guys need a chance to develop. The quarterback you are early in your career and the quarterback you become mid-career, can be two different things. So we'll see if he doesn't actually get it and he sees the matrix. I don't think he's bad at this. He's not great at this. I think he's the Miami.
He holds the ball a little too long. He's had some very serious injuries. I mean, he's had hip surgery. He's had some injuries. But it's more than anything. I thought late in the year, there were people who do a lot of the film breakdown that were showing examples of Tua kind of going first read and then tucking it and taking off. And I'm not seeing the kind of development that I thought I would see at this juncture. He got off to a hot start. He's got a great, awesome offensive play caller and some amazing weapons, but we'll see where it goes from here. I think he's going to have a backslide.
What else you got, Kruger? That's kind of the only other stuff I had out of all the other Niner stuff, and I think we've covered it all. Is there anything else that you've either picked up or glommed onto at practice that I haven't asked you about, that we haven't gone over here yet, that needs to be on this show today?
Well, a couple things. One, the Buccaneers have released Randy Gregory, and the 49ers, the more I look at the Niner defensive line, the more I think they're going to have to go outside the organization for a defensive end. The Niners have 4 defensive ends, with Beal being the 4th. They wanted 5 because they had Drake as the 5th. Drake is having physical problems with the knee, and I just think that the Niners still need that one more edge rusher. I don't think it's Alex Barrett. I don't think it's the guys that they have in camp. So I would say look for that at the cut down. I mean, Randy Gregory got cut by Tampa. I don't know if he's the answer, but he's out there. And there's a lot of talk in this game that, this last game, there was a lot of talk that the Saints may wind up cutting or trading Peyton Turner, their defensive end, or Isaiah Foskey, the former De La Salle Notre Dame defensive end. They played all right. I thought Foskey at times looked pretty good in that game. In this particular matchup with the Raiders, there's talk coming out of Vegas that the Raiders may trade Tyree Wilson. So if I'm the Niners, that would be a name that would intrigue me for a day 2 or day 3 pick in next year's draft, if I could make that deal at the deadline. So I just think the Niners, they're in their Super Bowl window. They've got good depth at tackle. They need one more good, defensive end, and it's probably not on their roster. So that's the one thing to look for in this game is, look at Tyree Wilson, look at the Raiders D-line, and let's see, how the Niners backup D-line plays. But I think they'll look for another defensive end. I don't know where it's coming from, what team, who's on the wire, who's on the bubble. It's going to be close. Teams don't get rid of good pass rushers very often, but Darrell Taylor, his name has been out there, of the Seahawks. Joseph Osai of the Bengals. There's a few guys out there that may, get cut loose. And the 49ers could definitely use one more defensive end because they're just, the guys that they have on the back end are probably not as good as some of the guys that will be cut around the league.
What else you got? Anything else from down in practice? But yeah, I would agree. So Randy Gregory feels like we've already done that. If they thought that he had another year in him, they would have retained him.
The other big thing in practice
that you just put out of Isaiah Foskey is the guy that I would want. If that name showed up on waivers, I'd go for him.
Yeah, I mean, Tyree Wilson is 275. He's hugely talented. I mean, God knows he went high enough last year in the draft. I'd be interested in him too. And there's probably 4 or 5 other guys around the league. If Seattle's going to cut Darrell Taylor, he's a great edge rusher as well. So
the other thing, like Alex Barrett is ready for his close up.
I personally don't, and I don't think they'll lean on Barrett. That would be my guess. The other one that I think is an interesting thing that should be mentioned is that this really is the Isaac Guerendo week, and you can see it when you're at practice. I mean, he's right next to Bobby T. Bobby T has been talking to Guerendo specifically in his ear the last couple practices. They are trying like crazy to get this kid who suffered a hamstring injury literally on the first day of practice and hasn't been on the field since. They don't want to cut him, and they don't want to shelve him for the year just because he's got a hamstring injury in early August. And he's big and he's fast, and they're going to try to force feed him at practice, and then they're going to try to force feed him some looks in the game. And to me, he is the number one guy to watch this week is Isaac Guerendo, because they took him in the 4th round. They traded up to get him. They really, really like him. This is the guy that Tony Pauline announced 6 weeks before the draft. The 49ers really like, Isaac Guerendo and want to draft him. And then remember that he came out and then got lots of attention, and then he took it back. He's like, no, I took that down. Well, did he take it down because the Niners told him to take it down? Probably, because 3 weeks later they drafted him. So they like him. They targeted him. He's a huge athlete, big, fast, strong. So now this is the week to get him out there, and maybe he has a big day against the Raiders and makes the team. But
how about this? Let's say Guerendo goes out and has the opposite of a big day. It's quite the opposite. Unimpressive afternoon of Guerendo. Is Matt Breida on this football team?
Possibly. Or it's also possible that that Cody Schrader has a good game and he winds up making the team. It's also possible for any of those other guys. I mean, Keyshawn Vaughn could have a huge day.
Which former Niner trying to become a Niner once again has a better chance of being on this team, Breida or Trent Taylor? Say it. I know you want to say it. That's a good question, Dan.
Well,
it's a good question.
I mean, yeah, no, it's definitely a good question. They want them both. I mean, the question with Trent Taylor, I think, is a question about Pearsall. Is Pearsall going to start the year on the PUP, or is he going to start the year on the active roster? If he's going to start the year on the active roster, then that takes a receiver spot away. But if he's going to start on the PUP list, then yeah, I think there's room for, Trent Taylor and Chris Conley. I think he's going to lose out to Chris Conley if Pearsall's healthy. I think he loses that. I think he loses the final job, the final wide receiver job. Is lost. You know what I'm saying? If Pearsall makes it, if Pearsall doesn't make it, then it's not Conley versus Taylor. It's Conley and Taylor. That's my guess. They like Taylor. The whole thing about Taylor that I don't like is that there's no upside there. Like, he's just a safe return guy. I mean, I get it. You don't want to lose the game on special teams, but it just seems really kind of I don't know, like aiming too low to say, you know what, We're going to do our I think the Niners may beg out of this whole new kickoff thing altogether and just kick the ball through the back of the end zone on when they're kicking it, and when they're receiving it, just have Trent Taylor catch it and not fumble it. And they may take that kind of less is more, let's not lose it on special teams approach. They could. Well,
then I would start with punt return coverage, because that's this team's biggest special teams problem. I think, year through year. So I would hope that
they think it's kick return coverage.
Well, either way, the return coverage that's got to get better in this whole. Yeah, we're really not going to try to embrace or adapt this new wrinkle, which could be a massive advantage for teams that find the right way to deal with the wrinkle first. I mean, I don't know. It's just, I'll say this: Kyle Shanahan's special teams collectively, other than skill at individual punter, skill at individual kicker, have never been that impressive. They really haven't. It is kind of a blind spot in Kyle's coaching career. Special teams have never done. I always feel like they've been best described as slightly below average.
Well, I mean, and here's the thing about it. They've changed coordinators. They've invested the money. They've drafted. I mean, I don't know what else they could do, right? They had Richard Hightower. They got rid of him. They changed the coordinator. They had, they invested a 3rd round pick in the kicker. They invested a 4th round pick in the punter. They signed George Odom as a special team guy. They've committed roster spots to special teamers. They've done almost everything that you want to do to have a good special team unit. They're decent in certain areas of special teams, but the kickoff coverage has got to be better. It's got to be better. They've got to figure out a way to, personally, I don't even mess with it. I don't mess with it. Last year, if you kick it out of the back of the end zone, the ball comes out to the 25. This year, if you kick the ball through the back of the end zone, and Jake Moody has more than enough leg to do that, the other team gets the ball at the 30. Don't save all your practice time. Save all your kick it through the back of the end zone. Give them the ball in the 30. Only time I wouldn't do that is if it was a 4th quarter deal where a field goal beats me or an overtime situation. Other than that, I'm kicking the ball through the back of the end zone every single time and giving my opponent the ball on the 30-yard line and not taking any chances that somebody hits a seam and takes one to the house. Because that's what it looks like. It looks like somebody's going to hit a seam or reverse field, and all of a sudden it's going to be a huge play. And you're sitting there going, why? What? So the NFL can be more entertaining? Are you that wed to the entertainment value of the league? Or are you trying to win? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I asked Shanahan about it the other day. I'm like, why wouldn't you just kick the ball through the back of the end zone and give him the ball at the 30? And I'm like, have you thought about that? And he's like, have I thought about it? And it's like, of course I've thought about it, you moron. It's my job to think about it. I know, but it's like, if you've thought about it, then why wouldn't you? That, to me, I'm wondering is if Shanahan, as a high-profile coach in this league, came out and did exactly that, would he get a call? Because we know the league is trying to dust this play off. It was a nothing play that became more of a nothing play, and now they're just trying to come up with a solution. They came up with a solution, but if guys like Shanahan and the coaches around the league are like, screw that, we'll kick it through the back of the end zone, then that solution sucks. So I wonder if coaches like Shanahan just do that. If all of a sudden the league calls, hey, Kyle, could you maybe mix in a...
I would have a very serious problem with that call coming from the league if I were Kyle Shanahan.
I would too.
I would just say, I will coach my team the best way I see fit. Go fuck yourselves.
Yeah, you guys create the rules and we'll deal with it.
Right.
And then guess what? After we deal with it, you're going to have to deal with us. And then that's the way this thing works. And if you want to change this, don't come knocking on my door. Go change it, and then we'll react. And the cycle continues. But don't blame me because I figured out a way to best utilize the rules to my advantage. Because there's no reason not to kick the ball through the back of the end zone. Really, if you think about it.
I don't like, I saw that baseball is thinking about a proposal. Well, all starting pitchers had to go at least 5 innings, regardless of outcome. So
Baseball has made so many wholesale changes to its product with a guy in Manfred that I don't believe should be allowed to make wholesale changes to a sport that I don't even think he loves.
Right. You don't like the sport enough to tinker with it.
You called the World Series trophy a hunk of metal.
Right.
You no longer really have you're not the guy to make it's like anything else. It's like, do you want, like a lot of Giants fans in July, baseball Giants I'm talking about now, wanted the Giants to make a bunch of moves, but then they also want Farhan out at the end of the year. Well, wait a second. Do you want the general manager who you don't even want to see next year? Do you want to empower him to trade away all your top prospects in July? Well, probably not. Of course, Farhan got around that by doing absolutely nothing, which is what he does best.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about that anymore. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't know if I even want Farhan running the team, let alone making a bunch of moves, but they needed a bunch of moves. So I don't know. It's the NFL is always going to tinker with its rules, but baseball has made huge changes to the rules, and I hate the extra innings guy on second. Hate it.
Don't like anything that limits a manager's strategy. I don't like the whole no shifts. You can shift this. You got to have this guy on that side of the field. Like, why? If a manager wants to play his defense any way he wants to play it, it should be legal.
I know, but here's the thing. What if there was something, Damon, what if the defense and what if the stats and the numbers and the info, the analytics, if you will, become so incredibly great that the defense could literally position a player every time exactly where the ball was going to be hit. And it took the offense in the game down several pegs. I want to see offense. I want to see scoring. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't want to see. Like, is it cool? Like, let me ask you this. Joe Panic was a left-handed pole hitter. Or he wasn't a pole hitter, but he was a left-handed hitter. He hit balls over 100 miles an hour into the middle of right field. Do you think it's a good thing for baseball that left-handed hitter X comes to the plate, hits the ball 113 miles an hour, it lands in the middle of right field? Is it a good thing for baseball that there's now an infielder position there who one-hops it and throws that guy out at first? Because I don't think it is. I think it's bad for baseball. I think it suppresses the offense, which suppresses the action, which suppresses the entertainment, and it's expensive as hell. So I don't want you to suppress my entertainment. You know what I'm saying?
Let me offer you the solution to all your problems.
Okay.
I'm going to quote Willie Keeler. Hit them where they ain't.
Okay. What if this? What if the NBA had a rule where they didn't allow? I mean, they didn't have a rule against goaltending, and they didn't want anybody jamming it. So they just basically, you could never jam because somebody could always just put their hand through the rim and just block you. That would not be good. It would hurt the action. It would hurt the entertainment.
Come through the rim in the history.
But I mean, even if you were just right at the rim, let's just say you had an unathletic guy just camped out right at the rim, and he was your anti-Jordan or your anti-Dominic or your anti-Vince Carter or your anti-dunker of de jour. Is that good? No, we want to see those dunks. I want to see that athleticism. I want to see those dunks. So I think baseball has gone too far in. I know I generally like what you're saying in that I don't like there to be like league interference from coaching. I like the coaching to kind of organically counter itself and be a checks and balances within. But if fundamental rules are changed that kill the scoring and the entertainment value of your sport, that's where baseball's at. Where there's too many Too many line drives hit right at a guy. Not enough guys on base. Not enough doubles. Not enough triples. Not enough steals. Not enough action.
Baseball embraced launch angle and everyone having a duplicate, repeatable swing, and everyone was given the same swing. That means everyone's getting the same result. The individual hit it the other way. Real art of hitting a baseball has almost been coached out of baseball in the name of launch angle and velocity and barrel rates.
I know. There's so many things about baseball that are tiresome, but this guy sums it up. Mark Graves. He says, get a 7'5" guy like a Zach Edey, sit at the rim and knock the ball off the rim. Yeah, I mean, you could do that. You could have some 7'5" freak of nature who's not athletic, camped out at the rim, and it wouldn't be good for basketball. I just think baseball.
Right, but here's the deal. So
baseball needs to just have.
Here's how I combat that, though, Larry. There's a strategy for that. You run that guy off the court. You literally go to a gear that he cannot operate at, and that's how you combat that strategy with another strategy. So I like strategy.
I mean,
part of it.
I don't know. I
know
what you're saying. I know what you're saying. I basically agree that I think the games should kind of police themselves. But baseball in 2024, I just went the other night. It's a snooze.
I'm going this afternoon. I'm going to the White Sox game this afternoon. They should pay me to come to that game.
I went to White Sox A's the other night when the White Sox broke the 21-game losing streak. We were there that night. Well, so my mom grew up on the South Side, and her whole family did. They're all White Sox fans. And I knew I wanted to go to an A's game, and Townie lets me use his tickets. He's got 4 tickets, and I wanted to take the boys before the summer ended. So I said, Townie, can I get your tickets? He's like, what game? I said, White Sox. He's like, okay, no problem. So, he sits right in the first row there. So we had great seats. And there was like only about, 800 people, 900 people probably in the entire place. But there's just no action. Now, granted, the White Sox had like 7 guys in their lineup hitting under 220. And so that maybe had something to do with it. And the A's are hardly the worst 27 Yankees
world to go watch. You did.
Yeah, I mean, it was a boring game, boring. But I'm just saying, I watched the Giants game last Friday night. They were getting no hit until the 7th. They wind up winning it on a can of walk-off. And yet there wasn't a lot of action. There wasn't a lot of there. So that's my issue with baseball is I just think baseball, it's gotten old. It's gotten slow. It's lost its relevancy. It's like the 12-year-old is not as into it. I mean, my kids all play baseball at the varsity level, and yet, they'll follow kind of Damon, they'll follow through the Bleacher Report app, and somehow the bases are loaded in the 8th inning, and all of a sudden my kid will come downstairs and be like, "Hey, it looks like there's a rally going on." Huh? It's like. And I'm like, yeah, and how'd you know that? And he's like, well, I was looking at the app, So
right, I got a notification on my phone that something was actually happening in the game, and I have a reason to tune in.
Right. That's how younger baseball fans monitor MLB in 2024. They monitor it for when there's action, and then when there's action, they come to the TV.
By the way, speaking of weird
crazy?
rules and strategies, this is where Ralph would say, what about sumo goalie? Sumo goalie. You get a guy big enough to sit in the pipes. You get a sumo goalie. You have a great goals against average. You can win a Stanley Cup like that. Maybe that's going to help the Sharks get over the top.
Craig, I've always said, those guys, they're big bodies. It's a big body. That's really all it is.
They're athletic. They're more athletic than you give them credit for. They're big body, but they're athletes.
They're athletes, and they can pile down some Amici's wings. Maybe we could even put an Amici's sign on the back of the net.
All right, let's go quickly through our starred chats, Larry. What do we got on the way out? We've been warned as soon as you guys started talking baseball, you lost half your audience, so we might as well wrap this up.
Yeah, exactly. Well, somebody tell baseball. Pat Riley, do you think LeBron is monogamous with Savannah?
We already did that. We hope so.
We hope so.
Thank you, Superman, for the super sticker.
Moon Man with the super sticker, and it is so super. Mr. Funny says, here's a 20 spot.
Woo.
Puny possibly addresses the Niners' weakest spot on the roster, right guard. What other areas do you feel are possibly weak on the team. They seem more loaded than last year. No more excuses. That's a great question. I'll throw it to you first, Damon. What do you think? If I say to you, weakest spots on the Niner roster?
The tight end room. First thing that popped in my mind. I don't even know if
You
that's
got
the
one
right
of the best
answer.
though at the top of the list.
You get past George Kittle. George Kittle's going to be hurt for some. He's going to miss games. He always does. Then what? So the tight end room would be my biggest depth concern. Overall weakness. I want one of these defensive tackles to prove that it's them. Again, we still haven't seen it all function together. We've seen bits and pieces and dots of this starting team. Yep. We haven't seen it all out there together. So hopefully that changes dramatically. Right now, I will leave it at a position of depth. My biggest concern would be that tight end room.
My biggest concerns are Jake Brendel at center and the Niners' ability to get some push in the run game. It just seems like they can't create any space for their runners between the tackles, and Brendel just got pushed around. He's only about 285. I'm a little concerned that he's not the answer at center long term. Now you have other guys, right? Drake Nugent's had a good camp.
Could be Nugent.
Feliciano's got talent. Barch, Kingston, Zakel. They're all these guys can play center. Zakel, they're trying to force feed Zakel because they're trying to keep Zakel on the team. He's Purdy's best buddy. I think they would like Zakel to be the backup center. But Nugent is playing great, so that's a battle royale. So I would say the run blocking at center is a concern at the point of attack. On the other side of the ball, I'm a little concerned about the defensive end depth. Like right now, you're fully healthy, right? So you have Bosa, Floyd, Beal, Gross Matos. But then after that, I mean, it falls off a cliff. So I think they really could use another defensive end, maybe two, to be honest, over the course of the season. So that's a concern. I'm very concerned about Devondre Campbell and his ability to replace Dre Greenlaw. And that's really it. So, I mean, Jake Moody a little bit, I guess. Special teams a little bit, I guess. But I'm not going to lose my mind. To me, it's more, can they run the ball? Can they stop the run? And then when they get to, and can they do they have enough defensive end depth to rush the passer for 4 months? Those would be my questions. But overall, I mean, every team in pro football has questions. So it's not like there is any team out there that doesn't have any. So there you go. Mr. Funny says Puny possibly addresses the Niners' weakest spot.
We just got that. Thank you very much.
One. Funny. Josh Dowling says, I think we'll see teams kicking it out of the end zone, and then next season the NFL will move the kicker back 5 to 10 yards. Yep, that's exactly. Josh, that's exactly what we're going to see. We're going to see teams get burned by a return, kick it through the back of the end zone, and then they're going to realize that, you know what? We got to make this so they can't kick it out of the back of the end zone, and then we are going to have action. But until we have act
5, Sebastian Janikowski is back, everybody. Look at the big leg.
Yeah, exactly. Michael Carroll says Niners contract negotiation skills are almost as low as Damon's likability. Oh, come on.
Oh, come on.
Oh, come on.
There
Michael, we're going to go at Damon that harsh. And then, of course, we got the ones early, including this one from Moonman, who said super sticker. And anytime you bring out the super sticker, it's so super. We can't ignore the super sticker. You got a final thought, Damon, before we bolt for the door? I'm getting ready to head down to practice, kind of a late practice today. Today, practice starts at 12:20, and then we'll talk to Nick Sorensen and some players after practice. And then, of course, tomorrow, walk through, no media, and then Friday is the game. And it's going to be a late game, by the way, 7 p.m. game. So I'll be on KMBR before, I'll be on KMBR after. I'll do a very brief post-game show because it's going to be late. In fact, I'm actually going to jump on this since they will be on the road. I will be jumping on earlier than normal. So I'll probably jump on right after the game Damon, are you still planning to jump in at the 2-minute warning after Niners Raiders?
2-minute warning. Indeed. If there's a 2-minute warning in the fourth quarter, I am going live on YouTube on the stream. So hopefully folks will catch me there while they might be waiting for you to start what you're doing. It's funny that Michael Carroll doesn't like me at all because I'm actually going to be talking about his dad on my show. Pete Carroll is coming back to USC as a professor. When asked what he'll be teaching, Pete Carroll's like, I don't know. So that's nice. That's good to have juice. So we're going to be talking about Pete Carroll, the professor, coming up here at 11 o'clock. You know, I was going to book JT the Brick on the show, but I heard somebody scooped that booking. You're going to be having JT on your show?
I am having JT, not today though. JT is joining the Krug show tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m.
Fantastic. I will circle back to JT once we get closer to the regular season, and we'll kind of do like a preview of the coming year. But I told him, and he's like, "Yeah, Kruger booked me," and I was like, "There he is."
So I booked. So tomorrow, get this on the show. Tomorrow on the show. So today on the show, we're gonna be down at Niners at noon or whatever. We'll talk to Nick Sorensen. Tonight on the show, Jordan Elliott stops by, who's really good. Damon, definitely get Jordan Elliott on your show. You're gonna love Jordan Elliott. I don't know if you know Jordan, but he's fantastic. Tomorrow on the show, there's no Niner media, but at 11 a.m. tomorrow, it's gonna be the all JT day. JT O'Sullivan from QB School.
Oh, I like JT's stuff.
Yeah, JT's coming on tomorrow at 11 to talk about Dobbs and Allen and Purdy and Mordecai and just really go deep on the Niner quarterback. So that's tomorrow at 11. Tomorrow at 3 is JT the Brick previewing Niners Raiders. Tomorrow night at 8 or so, the great Dieter Kurtenbach will be in the house for his Thursday night hit. And then Friday, it's Niners and Raiders at 7 o'clock. I'll do my KMBR hit in the pregame at 5. Damon and I, though, will be on Friday morning, unless you're good for Friday, right?
Yes.
Friday morning, 8:45 or 9. Is 9 the better time now?
9 is the better time now based on drop off with Jack. Yes.
Okay, so 9 a.m. on Friday, Damon and I will do another wake up brought to you by Sam's, and then Chase Senior stops by 10:45 on Friday, and then we'll go late. I mean, Friday we're going to get up early with Damon. We're going to be going late till midnight. Probably also, hopefully, Damon stops by with the in the Raider Niner post game, and then we'll try to turn it around on Saturday morning for a 9 a.m. stream with the coach. So we got a lot of stuff cooking for the next few days. But it's that time of year. Jordan Elliott later today.
Yeah, I'm working on a Kirk Morrison stopping on by the channel soon. Brian Baldinger is a guy that I've reached out to recently. Hopefully he's going to be coming on by. Mike Silver, Matt Mayoko, Cam Inman just sent me his book. That means I got to have him on to talk about that sometime soon. So yes, all Niner all the time. Lots of football coming. Can't wait for it. Larry, as always, it was a pleasure. Thank you so very, very much. Hope everyone has a great day today. If you're going to be out at the yard and you happen to bump into me, say hello. I look forward to seeing you maybe. It's Giants and White Sox. It's a game that will be poorly attended. That's all I know.
I wrote down August 21st, 2024 in an envelope, and I said, this is a day that Damon Bruce will be bored as shit watching baseball. And I said to myself, call Damon and ask him if he's got an extra ticket. So if your phone rings, it's me. It's good old Trent Baalke saying, hey, how about a little national pastime?